Alright, let's shoot the moon. Aside from Saturn, the moon is arguably the most important planet in astrology and magic. It's the fastest moving of the 7 traditional planets, and it takes about 2.5 days to go through a sign. It takes about 28 days for it to go through all the signs around the chart. That is a lunar cycle, which is a month. As it traverses the signs and takes on the energies of those signs, people's moods change. The moon is a receptive planet with associations to the element of water. And we see this as it governs the tides. And our bodies are mostly made up of water, and therefore it has an effect on us as well. The moon governs women's menstrual cycles, that time of the lunar cycle, that time of the month, and their mood will change. And so we have a watery, receptive, feminine planet. And anything receptive is feminine, and anything projective is masculine. Now, during this lunar cycle, the moon will wax and wane. Waxing being growing larger in the sky to full, and waning being diminishing in light and disappearing into nothingness. And this is the cycle of all things. During your life, you will wax to midlife, and then after midlife, you will start to decline. All things grow, and then they decline and die. A celebrity's fame will grow until the height of their popularity to full, and then it will decline, and then nobody cares about them anymore. This is just an example. Start looking for the waxing and waning in things, and you'll get the pendulum swing. You get that natural rhythm down. Most people are out of rhythm with the natural cycle. You should be starting your important projects right after the new moon, while the moon is waxing, while it's growing. I learned that I was out of rhythm when I would have a compulsion to start things during the waning phase. Okay, and then things wouldn't turn out. You want to start them during the waxing phase, unless you're trying to rid yourself of something or banish it. Then the waning phase is good for a purge. Align yourself with the natural cycle, with these natural cycles. It will make your life a lot easier. Instead of fighting against the current, now you're working with it. And it sounds a lot like our 2 pillars, doesn't it? And this is why the tarot card, the High Priestess, is associated with the moon. You would think that the tarot card, the moon, would be associated with the moon, but it's the High Priestess. And the moon lies at her feet. Because in order to reach the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity, you have to go through the moon. On the tree of life, the moon corresponds with the Sephiroth of Yesod. And we said in order to do successful magic, you have to combine force and form. Netzach and Had, Mercury and Venus, those 2 Sephiroths, the only way to get to them is through the moon. If you go the other paths separately in path working, you can reach Netzach and Had, but you're not combining them unless you're going through the moon. And this is where the element of water with the moon becomes very important, because we said that the association with the element of water is the emotions. And too many people focus on the visualization and not enough on the emotion. Your mood has to align with what you're doing. And then you need to amplify it. And this is critical to working successful magic. Now, the moon is also representative of the subconscious. but not in the way that the Sephiroth of Binah is. For the moon casts no light of its own. It is receptive and reflective. It only casts the light which is shown on it by the sun. And the sun, we said, was representative of the conscious mind. In other words, the moon is receptive to the light of the sun and will reflect that light down to Malkuth. And in this way, we can consciously impress upon our subconscious to carry out our magic. And this is why a lot of rituals are timed around the full moon, when it is the most impressionable. Wiccans and pagans are trained to do this, whether they're consciously aware of why or not, but they get the natural rhythms. And it's also why they're focused on the goddess. The goddess is the moon. Well, one of them. There are actually many, but that feminine receptivity for your general spell work, it's usually going to be the moon. The moon is also representative of the mother. The moon rules the sign of Cancer, and the sign of Cancer has to deal with safety and security, the mother, your past, and especially childhood, early childhood. And you can see how someone's early childhood would have the most subconscious reflections, where the impressions made upon you during that time are going to carry out even through your entire life. The part of the body with the sign of Cancer is the breasts, another association to the mother. Interesting to note that without any other interference from other planets, if a woman has Jupiter in Cancer, she will tend to have very large breasts, that expansive energy of Jupiter. Conversely, if she has restrictive Saturn in Cancer, she will have very small breasts. And this has been the case in every instance that I've seen it. Cancer is also associated with the home, where your home is. That's where people feel the most safe and secure. The savvy magician makes changes in his life by making changes to himself by use of magic and the moon. Because the moon makes it difficult for one to step outside of their comfort zone due to those past impressions made upon it. So the magician creates a new comfort zone by making new impressions upon it that are stronger than the old. And that's really how it's done. But the timing has to be with the natural cycle. And so the moon is like the valve. The Sephiroth of Yesod is like the valve between the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. When it's waxing to full, it's opening the floodgate to the pillar of mercy, and when it's waning to new is when it's opening up to the pillar of severity. Now, that's not to say that your magic won't succeed if you're working against the natural rhythm, but you're swimming against the current if you do so. But if you need to have something done and you need it right away, you got to work with what you have. But it's always best to go with the natural rhythm and cycle. The other important thing to know about when it comes to astrology and magic and combining those two in association with the moon is you need to be aware of what is called void of course. The moon is void of course when it's about to change signs every 2.5 days and has no other aspects to any other planets before it changes signs. The time of which is going to vary Sometimes it could take a couple hours. Sometimes it could take most of that 2.5 days. Now, while the moon is changing energy at this time, it is considered to be unstable. And therefore, any magic that you do during a void of course is bound to fail. Plan your magic around the moon being void of course. And this is yet another way that people are out of sync with the natural cycle. Many people have a compulsion to start things or to begin new endeavors when the moon is void of course, and they don't come to fruition. So when you get an urge or a compulsion to begin a new project or to begin something important, it's good to look at your chart to see where the planets are, what they're doing, what sign they're in, and if the moon is void of course, and if it's waxing and waning. Find out how far out of rhythm you are and start to realign yourself back to the natural cycle of things. And it should go without saying that the best time to do white magic is when the moon is full. And the best time to do black magic is when the moon is new or black, the most Saturn-like. Because when the moon's full, it's the most impressionable. It will receive the most light from the sun, the most light from the conscious mind, in order to bring things into your life. For getting rid of things and banishing, the new moon is best. The uncrossing ritual that we talked about previously is best done before a new moon. Other things about the moon, it governs the sign of Cancer, as we said, which is cardinal water. So that's the beginning water, beginning emotions. It rules over the 4th house, which is the house of the home, safety and security, which we touched on a bit previously in the Jupiter in Cancer video. Instead of taking the direct approach, the sign of Cancer tends to sidestep things and go about things in a roundabout manner, just like the crab walks sideways. It does this in its association with safety and security, where the direct approach seems too risky. And we see this in the video of Jupiter in Cancer, where instead of just giving the homeless guy $1,000, he went a roundabout way, making him believe he just won the lottery. So let's say you're doing some magic while the moon's in Cancer. That magic is probably going to manifest in a roundabout way. It probably won't be as direct as you may wish it to be. And maybe this will open up a whole new line of thinking for you in dealing with the moon and where it is astrologically. So, to recap real quick, the moon, watery, cardinal water, receptive, feminine, reflective. Water is reflective, isn't that? Mother, goddess, safety and security, the home, early childhood, past reflections, waxing and waning, subconscious receptivity, avoid the void of course, align yourself to the natural cycle, and I'll see you next time. Take care.